What's going on, people? I'm Old Spy, and welcome to the second installment of Night Souls, featuring Dark Souls Remastered for the PlayStation 4. Now, for those of you that aren't familiar, the Night Souls playthrough will feature the Knight starting class, and for the entire playthrough, I will use only basic knightly equipment, sword and shield, and any kind of knight armor. So with all that out of the way, this is the character you can see on the screen. Knight starting class. We're going to go with the Nameless Knight as our name. Starting as an Astora Noble. And let's go ahead and jump into it.
In the age of ancients, the world was unformed, shrouded by fog. A land of grey crags, arch trees, and everlasting dragons. But then there was fire, and with fire came disparity. Heat and cold, life and death, and of course, light and dark. Then from the dark they came and found the souls of lords within the flame. Nito, the first of the dead. The Witch of Izalith and her daughters of Chaos. Gwyn, the Lord of Sunlight, and his faithful knights. And the furtive pygmy, so easily forgotten. With the strength of lords, they challenged the dragons. Gwyn's mighty bullets peeled apart their stone skins. The witches weaved great firestorms. Nito unleashed a miasma of death and disease. And Seath the Scaleless betrayed his own, and the dragons were no more. Thus began the Age of Fire. But soon the flames will fade, and only dark will remain. Even now, there are only embers, and man sees not light, but only endless nights. And amongst the living are seen carriers of the accursed dark side. Yes, indeed. The dark sign brands the undead. And in this land, the undead are corralled and led to the north. Where they are locked away to await the end of the world. This is your fate.
Alright, so this is our starting point. This dingy old dirty cell where a kind gentleman dropped the key to the door in on us, so now we can get out. Also want to point out that the introduction and that little bit of story right there is really going to be the only bit of lore or story that I include in this walkthrough. I'm going to be skipping through conversations. I'm going to be, not really focusing on any of that. And the reason is, you'll see it in the description for all these videos, but the goal for this playthrough is to show you a reasonable route to negotiate the game while also keeping a lot of things for you to discover on your own. The biggest one being the lore and the story. So I'm not going to be going through description items and stuff like that. It's basically based quite a bit around gameplay and then allowing you in your own game to do the discovering of lore and other secrets. Alright, so when you walk in here, big guy's going to drop down, and we're not going to mess with him yet because all we have is a broken sword. You can see they offer us a way out right over here, and we're going to take it. Go ahead and light that. We don't need to rest, but we'll light that. And now we have to find our weapons. When we come out here, watch this arrow. Alright, we got our shield. We're going to throw that on. Now we can actually block the arrows. This is nice because when you start as the knight, you get a 100% physical block shield. So all basic physical attacks will cause no damage as long as you have the stamina to absorb them. The stamina is our green bar. The red bar is our health, our hit points. Also do want to point out for the combat style, especially when you're using the broadsword or any other kind of straight sword, the one that I like to rely on, if you can get multiple hits, I like to go R1, R1, R2 is a really good one. And then we're going to rely on our shield to block any attacks, and also pressing L2 to parry. R1 is, or L1, excuse me, is the basic block. Up here, watch out for the classic FromSoft ball trap. This opens up back to the first bonfire that we saw. We need to head into this hole created by the ball.
Oh, you thank good. I'll die. Regrettably, but
This is the guy that threw us the key. Going to give us our Estus flask, which allows us to heal, and he's also going to throw us a key.
Now I must bid farewell. I would hate.
And we're going to leave him alone. So the Estus flask goes on your usable item bar here. You can slot 5 items in there, and you press down. Let's see, what else do we have anything? So you can see you press down on the D-pad. The layout there is oriented by your D-pad. So whatever direction you press on the D-pad is going to switch your weapons and or your usable item, and the top one will be for miracles and spells. We're not going to have anything up there, but for the Estus and usable items, you press down, you'll cycle through, or you can hold down and it will automatically go to your first slot. So I would recommend always keeping your Estus flask in the first slot. If you use an item, you can quickly pop back to it in a tight situation. Continue on. Knight died, and we got our first real enemy here with our real weapons. And you can see we just blocked that, took no damage, and counterattacked. That's a really good way to handle these enemies. Especially, you can see we're kind of overburdened, so we're not moving very fast. But see, you can just sit here, really. And they're not attacking fast enough. I mean, they're going to maybe whittle it down after a while here. But we could do this all day. This guy, L2, perfectly timed when the weapon's about to hit you. And you get a parry, and then you just hit R1 for the counter critical attack afterwards. Right here, before we jump down, we're going to hold R1, lock on, hold R1, lock on by clicking R3. And for this guy, you really just want to kind of circle around towards his offhand here. Keep your shield up. See, we can block that. Didn't do any damage. Did knock us down, but just swings in. You really don't want to be out in front of him. You want to try to stay behind him, but he's kind of in a bad spot. So let's walk him out here. You just keep your shield up. Just want to make sure you don't run out of stamina, because then you will not be able to block his attacks, and he will do damage. Alright, nice and easy. First boss down, and we're ready to continue on.
Only in the ancient legends it is stated that one day an undead shall be chosen. To leave the Undead Asylum in pilgrimage to the land of the ancient lords. Lordran.
Alright, so I lied. 2 cutscenes. So we're going to keep in there. Now we're done with those. Alright, so you can see in Lordran, you can level up and kindle at bonfires. This is our main bonfire. You can see if you look, we have 5 Estus uses. If we rest here, because this is a already kindled bonfire, it's been kindled once, we get 10. Now the way you kindle is, I'm gonna come over and grab this item. Humanity. So this game is like the most useful item, well, one of them in this entire game. And we're gonna go ahead and use 2 of them. Alright, so the first thing you have to do if you want to kindle a bonfire is you have to reverse your hollowing. Now, what hollowing is, you can see the number 2 in the top, the little circle with the number 2 in it in the top left corner there is dim and dull. And that's because we look like this. So what we want to do, whoops, what am I doing? So what we want to do is we want to reverse the hollowing by offering humanity. So you can see the number lights up and we get our skin back and we look human again and not like a dried up piece of meat. And now we could kindle. The problem is we need the secret rite, which we will obtain much later. So for now, we're only going to be able to carry around 10 uses on our Estus flask until we get that sacred rite. Alright. So, taking a look at our character status here, since we can now level up and we've got some souls. I'll go through here. Let's actually do this. Let's go to the level up. Getting ahead of myself. Let's use our little soul item that we have to boost up our soul count, which is down in the bottom right corner of your screen there. We have 2,480 souls, and we're going to use that to level up. So if we take a look at what all of the stats do, I'll go through what all the stats do, and then I'll talk about the stats that I'm going to focus on. So the first thing is vitality. This is your hit points. You can see in the middle there, the middle column, and even some on the right column as we get the different stats. As you increase, the number gets blue. It shows that it's improving. So vitality, pretty much everything increases your defenses. So as you go down, whenever you level up, your defenses are going to increase. Vitality increases your hit points at the top there. We see we go from 659 to 682. If we go to attunement, attunement gives us attunement slots over there on the right of the screen. We have 1 now. If we keep going, see it goes to 2. And it also determines how many spell casts you get. So every time you pick up a spell and equip it, you get a certain number of casts. The higher your attunement, the more casts you'll get with it. You can also attune multiple slots of the same spell to increase your amount of casts. If you want to do that, we're not going to worry about any kind of casting, so attunement is not going to be on our radar. As for endurance, another one along with vitality, probably the 2 most important stats to help your, or attributes to help your playthrough get a little bit easier as you go. So your endurance raises 2 important things: your stamina and your equip load, which you want to raise that as fast as possible so that you can move around faster, and it'll make the game way more enjoyable. Again, it also does your defenses, and if you look over there on the right, your bleed resist, or resistance against bleed, which will rip off your HP if it hits if the bar fills up, and you'll see the bar, certain enemies inflict it, the bar will come up, and once it reaches full, it rips off a portion of your HP. Strength is weapon-based stat, which we will be utilizing, and you can see it raises the attack power based on your weapon scaling, which I'll show you in just a minute. Dexterity, same thing. These are both your physical weapon based stats. And strength typically deals with bigger, heavier weapons. Dexterity, smaller, faster weapons. Resistance is a completely worthless stat. We're not going to mess with it, considering that every time you level up, your resistances level up anyways. So do not put any points into that. Then finally, you have your two spell-based and miracle-based attributes. Intelligence is for spells, and that's going to increase your spell power, and faith is going to increase your miracle power, both of which we will not be messing around with. For our playthrough, we are going to focus on vitality, endurance, strength, and dex. Now, if we level up strength and dex at the same time, it's referred to as a quality build, and what this will do is it will allow us to use a wider variety of weapons if we choose. First thing we're going to do, though, is we're going to get that endurance up. We're going to put all the points in endurance. I try to level out vitality, endurance, and then go 1 and 1. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take them up to 20 first, then get our strength and dex up to 15, and then go back and get these two up to 30, and kind of keep going back and forth on the two pairs. Vitality and endurance I'll level together, and then strength and dex I will level together. Alright, so we're going to confirm that. Now, this is Firelink Shrine here. It's the starting point, and basically your basic hub for your entire playthrough. And first thing we're going to do is we're going to do a little discovering around here, see what kind of items there are. Firebomb, that's usable items that you can throw at enemies that causes obviously fire damage. If you come up here, talk to this guy, keep talking to him until he gives you a coin. Keep talking to him again. If you say yes to join the covenant, we're already in the covenant. The night starts in the Way of the White Covenant. From NPCs, you can learn gestures to add to your bar, and then you can also, with this guy, you can purchase miracles. So just know that that's there. The talismans are what's used to cast miracles, and then here's your miracle spells.
Come again.
So over here is a shortcut that we're gonna open up a little bit later on, but for now it's safe to drop down here. It's gonna give us access to this little secret area that has a few chests and some useful items. Homeward Bone allows you to return to your last rested at bonfire, no matter where you are in the level. Use that and it will take you right back to the bonfire and reset the world state. Cracked Red Eye Orb allows you to invade other players' worlds in the multiplayer portion of the game, which we're not going to be getting into. Also picked up the Morning Star, which is a pretty good weapon. We'll probably use that a little bit. And it's a blunt weapon, and it also inflicts bleed, as you can see down in the auxiliary effects, the little blood icon with 300. So it does inflict bleed on enemies that are vulnerable to that status. We're going to stick with the broadsword for now. Void's Talisman is another kind. It's more of a multiplayer based item. You can use it against certain enemies that do heal using the Estus Flask, but it prevents Estus recovery within a limited area. So if you hit somebody with it, they can't use their flask. All right, drop down here. You got to be very careful because this is a dangerous area early on. We're just going to make a quick run through to grab a few soul items here to help us level. Keep your shield up. Watch out for these guys. One more here, and then we're going to get out of here. You can see our item burden, our equip burden, excuse me, is pretty high. So our character is moving really slow, which does make the game a little bit more difficult. In Dark Souls, the faster you are, the quicker you move around, the better. We're going to slide up here. We're going to grab this. Those guys are still chasing us. But rest right here. Resets. Every time you rest at the bonfire, it resets the world state, so all the enemies go back to where they were. They're not aggressive, so then you can move back around in here. We come back out and you can see all the skeletons down there are back in their piles, so they're not active, and we're not going to go back down there. We're actually going to get one more item right through here. And we're going to head back, do the fire. And let's see if we can get another level here. There we go. We can get two. So I got those at the same spot. So I'm going to start with Vitality, add one more into there. And we're looking pretty good. So from here, the way to continue on is up that way. But there's another area that we can take a quick peek at and grab up some items before we really get started on our adventure. So to do that, we're going to go down here and we're going to take this elevator down. So if you see down here, we got an item here. Another soul item, always useful. We come out here, these guys are just hanging out. They're not going to mess with you as long as you don't mess with them. So we'll keep it peaceful. Guys chilling. Come down here, and this guy is very easy to miss. You've got a magic vendor and a blacksmith.
This is unusual. You haven't lost your head. And more, well, I shouldn't cry. Although,
so you can see you can reinforce your weapon, reinforce your armor, you can repair, and you can buy a couple of spells and a catalyst. So pretty useful, especially if you start off as a with a sorcerer build. This will definitely help you out. And once you find some upgrade materials, you can upgrade your weapon early on to squeak out a little bit more damage, which is always nice. Alright, come out here. Now, this leads to two different areas. In there, in that big cave is one area, and heading down that way across the rope bridge is another area. We're not going to mess with that for right now. That requires much more levels on your character in order to really stand a chance in those areas. So we're not going to mess with that for right now. A couple of more things we can get. Transient Curse is going to be used when we head in that direction, which I also would not recommend right now. You can, but again, it's better to put some levels under your belt before you go there. And you can also get the S-Stock, which is a pretty good weapon. We don't have the stats to mess with it, but it's a piercing sword, thrusting weapon, and it also has kind of a horizontal slash, which is useful for multiple enemies. We're not going to use that. We're going to stick once again with the broadsword. And we're going to head back up. Also, this character here, you can use, if you have a Firekeeper's soul, you can use it to reinforce your Estus flask, which will make it +1, +2, so on and so on. And it will replenish more HP the more that it's upgraded. Alright, this guy's just an NPC. He doesn't sell you anything or anything like that. You can talk to him if you like. Alright, that's going to wrap it up. A little bit of a slower episode, kind of setting some things up. When we come back next time, we'll get ready to get our adventure started and head up to the Undead Burg. So I will see you then.